Hi, this is a presentation of Extended Access Control List, and it is a part of my Advanced Networking course. When we look at the extended ACLs, they are of course more complex than the standard ACLs. This means that you can filter on the source address, as you also can do on standard access list, but you can also filter on destination addresses and the protocols, whether it's IP, TCP, UDP, ICMP for instance, and port numbers, so that you can filter HTTP traffic from FTP traffic and so on. So you can go in and look at the port numbers as well. So you have much more different things to filter in and out, and you can do it on both source and destination. You can use, when you are looking at the Cisco implementation here, you can either use the port numbers or you can use keywords. For instance, if you say that you want to filter, in this case, access list 114 permit TCP from 192.168.20.0 and to any address equal 23. Equal 23 means that this is port number 23. So you can either say equal 23, or as you see down here, you can also say equal telnet. So you can either use the port number or the keyword, and I would always suggest to use the port number because the way that they name it is a little bit tricky in some cases. When we want to configure a extended list, we go in and say access list, and the number, it's somewhere between 100 and 199, which means that this is an extended list. Then you tell whether you want to permit or deny the traffic. You say the protocol source, is this TCP, UDP, IP, whatever. And then you say first the source, destination, and then the port number. And then you can say equal, you can say larger than, smaller than, whatever you want to do. So it's a much larger statement than when you look at the standard lists. Here, for instance, access list 103 permit TCP from 192.168.10.0 to any address equal 80. So we will permit here all HTTP traffic from this network to whatever we want to send it to. And then also you want to permit equal 443, which is HTTPS. And then we have whatever else we want to do is that we also would permit it if it's established. You can see we use here the keyword establish, which means that if this is traffic that has been originated from the inside, well, then we will allow the answers to come back in. All other traffic will then be denied because there is an implicit deny any at the end of this statement. Also remember here, the most specific things first and then a more general in the end. Then we will apply this to a interface, in this case interface G00, and we will apply to be able to work for both inbound and outbound traffic. Always remember, if you just make the list and you don't apply it to any interfaces, it will have no effect. And in this case here, you do the same thing. You will here deny FTP traffic, and then afterwards you do a access list permit IP any. This means that all other types of traffic you will allow in your network. You can also here create an extended list with a name instead of a number. If you just give it a number, then the number will decide whether it is an extended or a standard list. Here, if you do a named, for instance, called surfing, well, then you need to implicate or say whether it is an extended or a standard list. To verify it, you do the command show access list, and you will see which access list that you have made, and you can go into your interface and see whether you have an access list in or out. Again, with the standard access list or the extended as with the standards, you need to make sure that you put them in the correct order. The order is very important. The order that you put in the statements. So the first statement is the more specific, then it will become more general. And if you need to change something, it's always a problem. So as I said in the standard, try just to make it again if you make it wrong. Packets that are tested against an inbound ACL will do that. You will test them before the traffic is being routed, so that if you have something where you drop a packet, it will of course not be routed. If an inbound packet does not meet any of the ACL, well, then there is this denied, implicit denied, and it will be stopped and it will not be routed. If it's an outbound ACL, well then they are checked first for a route. Of course, we need to figure out if you want to send them out and where we want to send them. And then afterwards, they are checked for an ACL list. Yeah. So an ACL first filters on the source address, then on the port and the protocol. Have a look at an example here. We have a host 192.168.10. 10 has no connectivity to 192.168.30.12. And why is that? Well, it is because if we look at it, we have we start by denying, and we start by denying everything coming from 192.168.10. And whatever it's in the last byte we ignore. So we start by denying it. So that is why we do not have any connectivity here. If you look at the next example here, the 192.168.10.0/24 network cannot use TF2P to connect to 192.168.30.0/24. Why not? Well, as we can see here, we have started by denying telnet traffic from 192.168.10.0. And we have also denied traffic from a specific or to a specific host. And then we have said permit TCP any. And the reason why we cannot do TFTP here is because TFTP uses UDP instead of TFTP. So this will block for everything using UDP. If I wanted to allow everything else, I should have, say, permit IP any, for instance. The last one here, host 192.168.30.12 is able to telnet to connect to 192.168.31.12, but company policies state that this connection should not be allowed. And if you look at the access list, well, then we can see here that denied TCP host 192.168.31 equal telnet, and then permit IP any. So I'm not actually denying this host. So if I wanted this one also to be denied, I have to add that statement. Look here, we have a 10 and a 20 in front of it. This is something that you could do to set a sequence number. If you have a very, very large access control list and you want to be able to edit in it, it could be an idea to set sequence numbers on. So because then you can add one in between 10 and 20, for instance. So there is a way, instead of just making it from beginning, if you make an error, you can put in these sequence numbers as well. Yeah, and that was it about the extended access control list. Thank you.